Before Knoxville fully wakes, before the sound of traffic and alarm clocks, the Sunsphere welcomes the morning. There was a time when people gathered here believing the future could be planned, engineered, and celebrated all at once. They brought children on their shoulders, cameras around their necks, and hope in their pockets. Decades later, the crowds are gone, but the feeling hasn't entirely faded. Joggers still pass by. Kids still ask, what is it? In a city that sometimes forgets how bold it once dared to be, the Sunsphere stands as a reminder of how big our dreams once were.
So the story of the Sunsphere has a unique beginning. Not by accident, but it was a spontaneous thing.
Knoxville's Golden Globe is traced back to a man known locally for the Golden Arches.
Lytton Cochran was an entrepreneur of McDonald's, and he was doing a facility in Gatlinburg, at our Gatlinburg office.
He was building a restaurant in Gatlinburg, and we were the architects on it. Gatlinburg would not accept the Golden Arches, the typical McDonald's. They wanted something with stone and a wood shake roof and all that sort of thing. So that's what the meeting was all about.
Hubert Bebb was the founder of the company, and Lytton said, you know, I'm on this KIEE board, and every World's Fair has a theme structure. We don't have one.
Mr. Cochran said, well, we've had somebody suggested a court of flags, have all of the countries participating, and Bill, why don't you come up with something?
And Hubert and Bill looked at each other and said, okay, when do you have to have it? He said, tomorrow morning. Bill started figuring out how we could write it up and do a narrative of the Sunsphere. Hubert sat down and started sketching. The theme is energy, so why don't we do the source of energy, somehow tie that to the sun? And they came up with the thought, well, let's just do a building, maybe a round sphere. And Hubert did some rough sketches.
The early sketches embellished an idea I had of just putting a spherical restaurant down on the ground. And we actually proposed it to be over here by Cumberland Avenue, but the fair committee came back and threw us a curveball. They said, no, we don't want this on the ground, we want it up in the air.
The original conception was it'd be all concrete, put a concrete pedal base, put this ball on top of it, and that'd be the Sunsphere. And he took it to the committee, and they loved the idea. They said, let's do this.
Well, to build a structure like this out of concrete up in the air like they wanted it, that's another close the book on this story. You know, that's just an impossible thing to happen. So somehow, along with the Holy Spirit guiding my lips and my brain, I was able to convince the Board of Zoning Appeals that this was a 5-story building and not a 26-story.
We understand scientists think the sun is about 865,000 feet in diameter.
So our idea was to make this 86.5 feet in diameter.
We kind of had to cut that back and came around with a 74 feet diameter we have today.
The blueprint for the Sunsphere was locked in. But how do you fund something so ambitious?
If we would finance such a crazy idea, you could never build it because there's never been a spherical building on the planet Earth.
A bank in Kentucky agreed to fund about $5 million. Knoxville City had a grant of $1 million, so it was about a $6 million project.
All the pieces were finally in place, signaling the start of construction on Knoxville's modern showpiece.
It started in November of '79, and the first day of construction was January of '81.
We had to April of '82. That sounds like a long time, but that's really just 15 months.
Concrete takes a longer time to build, and we didn't have the time to do that. We can't take that up 200 feet high, and so we felt like our structural engineer needed to come up with an easy way to put together the steel. 600 tons of steel coming in, you know, and have to do all kinds of welding and all kinds of stuff. It's going to take time. He came up with a design that he copyrighted that it goes together like Tinker Toys. All those parts came in to delivered, and once they delivered, they could start putting those again and bolting them together, and that's why they could do it so fast.
With such a unique structure, there were also unique problems that could arise.
We went through all kinds of scenarios, like What happens if you're exiting up there? You got to have two exits. What's going to happen when it freezes or when the snow hits and it's dangerous? Well, we'll make a grate so it'll be more open. So every problem they came up with, we came up with a solution as best we could to accomplish that objective that we had.
The base of the Sunsphere was painted blue to resemble the color of the sky. But another tiny hiccup. How exactly do you make a building gold?
Our construction manager visited 65 different glass manufacturers before we could find anybody. There's like, I think, 7 different sizes had to be cut with that glass. There was a film inside that helped the reflectivity, and it's got 24-karat gold dust in it. The glass itself is 1 inch thick. An airplane flies over, drops a component, shatters the window. One side is tempered and the other side's laminated. The tempered part could crack and break, but the laminated part would catch it so it would not fall without, you'd have some time to kind of react to that crisis. They cost about $1,000 a pane back in the day, as I remember. 360, maybe 360 panes.
The outside of the Sunsphere sounds great, Lisa, but things are really going to be cooking on the inside. A restaurant featuring continental cuisine is going to occupy the 3rd and 4th levels.
We negotiated with Hardee's and came up with an idea that they thought they would agree to do that. And they said, well, we also need a fast food area, so we did both a dining in the Sunsphere, but the base of Sunsphere during the World's Fair was a fast food.
You know, something else that's going to be sharp is the approach to the Sunsphere. A pair of tube structures called sunscopes will be the entranceways to the tower. Inside these tubes will be an audio-visual presentation on energy and the sun.
Just about everyone in America and the civilized world can identify the scene behind me as the site of the 1982 World's Fair, and the dominant element of that scene is the Sunsphere.
On May 1st, 1982, the doors finally opened on Knoxville's Disco Ball in the Sky, and attendees paid $2 to ride the elevator to the top.
One day it'd be Bob Hope, the next day Sugar Ray Leonard, and it was just fun to hear, and they'd hold their breath and they'd turn their heads, and it's pretty exciting looking out a glass elevator door as you go flying up the tower. I've heard numbers of 376 people that the restaurant was designed for. However, I can assure you there were times when there were over 747 people in these 5 stories.
Thousands of people every day visit the Sunsphere, the theme structure for the 1982 World's Fair. But get married?
I do.
Just a month into the festivities, Carl Van Wagner and Sandra Hopkins held their nuptials above the fair. And to top everything off, a Sunsphere-shaped cake.
I'm sure in years to come, the Sunsphere will be remembered as one of the most unique theme structures ever constructed. And of course, it's a constant reminder of one of our most important energy sources, the sun.
From May to October of 1982, 11 million people visited the World's Fair in Knoxville, all with the opportunity to see Knoxville from a bird's eye view. But once the pomp and circumstance faded, so too did the shimmer of the scruffy city sphere.
Nothing happened on development of the World's Fair. Nothing. The city just kind of, everybody thought they was going to develop it like it is now.
When the World's Fair was over, this was going to be the featured beverage, food, gathering place. This was going to be, everybody's water hole and place to eat and do all this stuff.
And Hardee's was just not getting the business, so they said, we've got to pull out. This left $1 million worth of kitchen equipment on the table. Walked away.
In the decade that followed, the Sunsphere simply lay dormant, save for the occasional visitor to the observation deck and an attempt to make the structure a jack-o'-lantern by radio station WIVK. In 1992, the Sunsphere's faded sky blue base was painted green as part of a renovation, and it became home to the Knoxville Visitor Information Center. There were talks of multiple restaurants occupying the space once rented by Hardee's, but nothing ever materialized. In 1996, however, the Sunsphere surged back into the public spotlight.
There's 3 different customers to the Sunsphere, which I think is really surprising. You have people that are very familiar with what a World's Fair is, and they want to visit all of the things left behind by a World's Fair. Your second customer is like, oh my goodness, there's a big gold ball in the air in Knoxville, and I want to go up in there and see what that is. And then they learn about the World's Fair. And then you have a third customer, and those are the ones that have seen the Simpsons episode.
The Simpsons.
On March 31st, 1996, The Simpsons debuted the episode Bart on the Road. In it, Bart Simpson creates a fake driver's license and takes his friends on a road trip. While in the car, Milhouse discovers a AAA brochure highlighting the 1982 World's Fair.
Knoxville! Knoxville! Knoxville!
In lieu of going to Disney World, the boys set out for Knoxville, Tennessee, only to find the World's Fair park derelict.
What about the Sunsphere?
You mean the Wigs Fair?
I cannot tell you how many people I have met from Finland, from all over the world that say, where's the Wigs Fair? You know, I want to come here because I saw the Sunsphere on the Simpsons episode.
I hate this place.
We'll just ignore the part where they kind of knock it over, but outside of that, it was a great episode.
In the immediate aftermath, the local Fox station was inundated with calls from viewers wanting to see the episode again. According to the show's writer, Richard Appel, there was no ill will toward Knoxville. It was simply the idea of going to a World's Fair 14 years too late that was appealing.
We actually have one of the original scripts up here, and those are really hard to come by because, you know, when The Simpsons was a Fox episode and then that got bought by Disney, so there's a lot of rules that go along with promoting things that are associated with The Simpsons, but we're really proud of that partnership and the ability that we have to tell that story because it is very unique to the Sunsphere.
The episode was the 5th most watched show on Fox that week. In reality, it still wasn't all rainbows and sunshine for the Sunsphere. In fact, Knoxville's own residents had no idea how it was being used.
What's in the Sunsphere?
It was the Tourist Bureau or something, but they keep moving that around, so I don't know now.
Okay.
Anything? I have no idea what's in the Sunsphere.
Curious?
Not really.
By 1998, people were still trickling in to view from the observation deck and to check out the museum. The following year, construction began on the Knoxville Convention Center, closing the Sunsphere and the museum. And according to newspapers at the time, it housed the construction workers on the Convention Center project. A move that CEO of the Public Building Authority, Mike Edwards, said made the Sunsphere the most interesting-looking trailer in Trailer City.
We're using the funds from the sale of the candy factory and the Victorian houses, plus money from the sale of the Poplar Street garage over here to make the necessary renovations to the Sunsphere and the amphitheater.
In 2007, 25 years after its installation, the Sunsphere and the surrounding area got a much-needed $1.8 million facelift.
Mayor Haslam, along with thousands, remember that precious time here at the World's Fair in 1982. But they're even more excited about what they're going to see and hear in the next chapter of the World's Fair Park.
I think a lot of people are excited. We've had a petition out there for a while. The public definitely wants it.
By Independence Day, the public got what they wanted as a newly renovated Sunsphere opened its elevator doors once again.
Beautiful day. You can see for miles and miles, and I think they've done an excellent job restoring it.
The Bible says love is patient and kind.
And what would a Sunsphere opening be without a wedding?
He loves the Sunsphere so much, so I was like, yeah, we ought to just get married up there. And then the more we talked about it and we told people, they're like, you should really do it.
Since then, the restaurants have come and gone, but the observation deck has remained open, and in 2019, the Sunsphere Fund was established.
The Sunsphere Fund and the creation of that fund makes it where this Sunsphere could be supported and live forever and continue to have enhancements over the next 40 years. I mean, I think there's a lot of things we can still do with this structure, but my goal is to make sure the Sunsphere is here, standing, viable, and kept up to date for the next 100 years.
The first big change, repainting it to its former color.
Well, we searched and searched for the Pantone of the blue because it was green for at least 30 years. and it held up great, but we needed that original blue. So we searched all over the Sunsphere, and in one small closet in one of the engineering rooms, we found a part of the steel that had not been painted green. And so we were able to color match to the exact 1982 blue.
Next, a brand new welcome center.
It is a great welcome center. It's open for free to the public. You can finally come to the Sunsphere and talk to personnel, figure out visitor information, learn all the things you want to know to decide if you'd like to buy a ticket to come up the elevator to the observation deck, which is now a museum-level quality experience.
Since its inception, similar structures have popped up around the world in places like Kazakhstan and Vienna. But the original Sunsphere will always stand proud above the scruffy city.
It's a source of pride. It's more of just thankfulness and blessing that I had the opportunity to be a part of it. I hope they don't tear it down. Well, I think right now, if you look at most of advertisements and concept, it seems to be an icon for Knoxville, like World Fair themed structure should be. You know, it may not be on the same level as Eiffel Tower in terms of the attraction, those things, but it's still an icon for Knoxville. That's something to be proud of.
I'm kind of biased, I think. So obviously I think the Sunsphere is the best. But I mean, I guess if you polled some of our visitors, they might say the Eiffel Tower beats us by a hair bit. But I definitely think we're better than the Seattle Space Needle. No offense, Seattle, but I'm just saying.
The Sunsphere was never just an attraction. It was a promise that Knoxville believed in tomorrow. The park may have emptied and the crowds moved on, but that promise never fully disappeared. Families passed beneath it without thinking. Children point up in wonder, and longtime residents smile with familiarity. What began as architecture became a memory. What began as ambition became belonging. Time has tested the Sunsphere in ways no architect could ever predict. It has weathered economic shifts, cultural change, and long stretches of uncertainty. Yet, it still stands, unbroken and unmistakable.